and girls. In the morning session, you have already been around the world with Mr. Soin's presentation. So I'll restrict my presentation to polar journeys. I was very fortunate to lead an expedition to South Pole and North Pole while serving with the Indian Army. So I will share with you my journey into these regions. A bit of origin about Antarctica you might have read in your school books. You are aware of about 200 million years back, the Earth had two major land masses called Laurasia and Gondwana. Laurasia broke into the present-day Asia and Europe, and Gondwana broke into present-day South America, India, Africa, and Australia. This is how, because of the tectonic moment, these continents broke from Gondwana land and drifted slowly and became what we see today. India moved about 110 million years back, and the rest of the continents are shown on the slide. The present Antarctica looks something like this from space. And if you remove the ice from the top, the land mass looks something like this. The total area of Antarctica is about 14 million square kilometers. And in the winters, almost the same area freezes around and the area doubles up. In this political map, you can see the Indian stations. Indian station is located somewhere here. And all around the continent, there are scientific stations of various countries located. Only USA has the wherewithal to maintain a station bang at South Pole. Some peculiarities and geographical facts about Antarctica, just for the interest of the students. It is the fifth largest continent in terms of area. 10% of Earth's land, southernmost point obviously. It has 98% snow cover, and 70% of Earth's ice, which if it melts, gives 90% of freshwater resources. It has mountains up to 3,000 meters high, and highest peak is Mount Vinson Massif. If you superimpose the map of Europe onto the map of Antarctica, this is just to give you an idea how big the continent is. Now this slide shows the depth of ice on the continent. The darker it is, the deeper it is. The depth of ice varies from 800 meters to 4,500 meters, which is 4.5 kilometers. So you hardly see any land component, except on the fringes. This will give you an idea about the depth of the ice. So when you're walking on the continent, you actually don't see the land per se. It's only on the shores that you see it. So this whole mass of ice, due to its own weight, it flows down on the slope sides, and when it comes to the shore, it topples down and forms the iceberg that we know of. So this is how you see the snow ice basically keeps sliding down because of its own weight. And when it comes closer, if it's at a height, it drops off and forms an iceberg. Otherwise, it just comes and joins the frozen sea. These are the various stages of formation of ice when the sea around freezes. Initially it's pack ice, with then large flow ice. And this is the iceberg floating, and the frozen sea surrounds it. And when it keeps getting closer, it becomes fast ice, and then the shelf ice. The shelf ice it looks like a land, and you can walk on it, you can drive your car on it. I mean, it's depending on the thickness of the ice. There's some other peculiarity in terms of weather. It is the windiest place in the world. Maximum 324 kilometer per hour wind has been recorded. It is driest, it doesn't rain there, it only snows there. It is the coldest, the minimum temperature recorded is minus 89.2 degrees centigrade. However, the average temperature in the so-called summers ranges around minus 35 to 50, and in winters it goes down further down. And this, both the polar region, North as well as South Pole, remains in complete darkness for 3 months, and is to complete daylight for another 3 months, and intervening period varies in terms of darkness and light. There's no habitation there of any kind. Forget the humans, there's no plant, no animals of any kind on the South Pole side, because there's nothing for them to feed on. Only habitation is in the form of marine life in the sea around. Whiteouts are a very common feature. Sastrugis are the uneven in structure. I'll show you the pictures of those. And nobody owns any land in Antarctica. People ask me as to how one can visit Antarctica. So as for us Indians, there are 3 ways to visit. As a tourist on board ships which sail from Ushuaia in South America, or you can go as a part of scientific teams. India has 3 stations there, out of which one is submerged under ice. The 2 are operational. So you can form team of part of scientific teams which go and stays there and does scientific research. So this option stays open for you all as a student. Or third option is to go as a part of expedition teams like we did. These, as a tourist, the tourist ships sail mainly from Ushuaia, which is South America here, and they take you to the various islands around. And they also have ships from Tasmania and New Zealand, but they are less in number, more of it from Ushuaia. These are the kind of ships that take you as a tourist to Antarctica. You're not allowed to go and stay on the continent as such. So tourists stay on the ship. They are taken ashore on these smaller boats called Geminies. Then they take you onto the land. And in between you see the seals, whales. And on land you can see these penguin colonies, where in the summers they come from all over. And these are the skuas, the birds. These are the whales sailing along the Gemini. Another picture of a whale. The seals on shore. People can go and photograph them. They just laze around the whole day. Thermal spa. You can do kayaking in the cold water. You can do scuba diving there. And you can even fly around on board the helicopters which are on the ship. So this is a hut which was used by Shackleton during his travel. This has also become a tourist spot. So I'm also asked as to what is the main difference between climbing in mountains and skiing in Antarctica. So the effect of high altitude is not there in polar journeys because it's at sea level. In spite of that, the South Pole exists at around 10,000 feet because of the thickness of the ice around. No use of Sherpas or porters there. There's nobody there to help you out. It's more cold, as you saw, more windy than mountains, including anywhere in the world. Rescue is very less likely because even the aircrafts can't fly you in there because of frequent bad weather and the terrain that you will see in the pictures ahead. Navigation is very difficult. Even the satellite coverage to the South Pole is restricted to few satellites. The means of communication, the Inmarsat doesn't work beyond 72 degrees south. And there are no landmarks there to navigate. There are no mountains en route. It's obviously more expensive because everything has to be carried from mainland. More chances of medical problem due to prolonged exposure to cold and winds. And usually the team like ours don't have a medical doctor with us. So we have to fend for ourselves. So as far as mountaineering goes, since the thickness of ice itself is about 4.5 kilometers, so you have very less mountain left to climb. As you see in this picture, only this much mountain is left to climb, although the height of the mountain may be about 6,000 meters, but you have only about 2,000 meters to climb. So relatively easier, but due to cold, it becomes difficult. A bit about the exploration. The Antarctica was first seen by the seafarers, the whale hunters, in 1820. Thereafter, nothing happened for almost a century. Before Raoul Amundsen was the first person to put a foot on South Pole in 1911. He was closely followed by Robert Scott, who lost the race by 35 days, and his team perished on the way back. Sir Edmund Hillary, who was the first person to climb Everest, along with Tenzing Sherpa, and he used the tracked vehicle for the first time to traverse from one end of the Antarctica to another. After that, the use of sled dogs had been abolished. These days, nobody carries the dogs on these journeys, but earlier they used to. A bit about Indians in Antarctica. India has three stations, as I mentioned. The first one was called Dakshin Gangotri, which was made in 1982. It was made on the ice shelf, and so over a period of time, it just kept sinking in, and presently it lies under the sea, under the ice. We can still go there, but we use a ladder to descend to that place. The rooms are intact. It has not yet been crushed by the ice around, but it's not habitable anymore. So the second station, called Maitri, was made in 1989. It was designed for 10 years, but it still exists, and it is manned all the year round. The more recent one is called Bharti. It was constructed in 2012. It is the state-of-the-art station, fully covered by all kind of gadgets, and temperature control and everything is controlled by the computer. So as far as adventure goes, Colonel J.K. Bajaj, who was the principal of Nehru Institute of Mountaineering in way back in '89, he was the first person who did this journey as an adventurer. He paid his own way with the international team, and he skied this journey. After that, Commander S. Dam, he led a naval team, but they didn't do the entire journey. They did only the last degree, that is 110 kilometers. So they flew to the last degree, 89 degree, and from there, they skied to the pole. After that, in 2009, Mrs. Reena Kaushal was the first Indian lady to ski to the South Pole. She was a member of a Commonwealth expedition for ladies, and she did a different route, which was slightly shorter than the conventional route. She did 890 kilometers against the conventional 1170 kilometers. So this shows the start point, which is at the edge of the continent. And this expedition involves skiing over a distance of 1170 kilometers to reach the South Pole. So these people they have done as individuals, they have gone to South Pole, but till the time we had our expedition in 2011, no Indian team has gone and did this expedition. So we claim it to be the first Indian team to do so. So this is the journey that we undertook in 2011. It was an army-sponsored expedition. There were 8 members in the team. A bit of orientation to the map. Up north, this is the north, and India is located somewhere in the north. And we flew down to Chile in Punta Arenas, which is the southernmost town in Chile, from where most of these expeditions are launched. From Punta Arenas to Union Glacier, we fly by chartered aircraft. Union Glacier is just when you see the picture, it merges with the frozen sea, so you can't really distinguish between land and the sea there. We use GPS and compasses, and the compasses are what we use here are a bit different from what we use there. It has a heavy base, and because of the strong magnetic current at the poles, the compasses behave very erratically. And the sledges that I mentioned that we use for carrying everything that we need. So these are the sledges that we carried in aircraft, and then these are the aircraft that was used, chartered aircraft, to land at Antarctica. And then we prepare our sledge, and then we were transported by these twin-quarter small aircrafts to the start point. And this is where on 26 November 2010 our journey began. So this, as I mentioned, the total journey was 1170 kilometers. We took 50 days to do that, averaging about 25 to 30 kilometers every day. Some glimpses of the journey en route. Every 1 hour we used to take a break, munch some dry fruits or sweets that used to be part of our lunch, and then move on. This is a usual weather condition. At a drop of hat, the blizzard will start or the sun will come up, so you can never predict what is going to happen. So you got to be prepared for everything. This is how this. And because of these kind of surface, evacuation is difficult because the aircrafts can't land on this surface. From the distance, it looks very clear, but once you come closer to the land, it's very difficult to land. So this is when we went there, these were 24 hours of daylight. So when we put up a camp at night, it used to be daylight like this, what you see in the picture. Pitching up a tent was another chore which was quite difficult because once you remove the hand gloves, your hands freezes in no time. So you have to tie up all those laces and the strings with your heavy gloves. That we learned in Greenland how to do it. Otherwise, so this is in the evening when we used to camp, we used to anchor our sledges with the tent because in the night or when we are sleeping, the winds at times used to be very, very high and even the sledges could have been blown away. So we tie them up so that in the morning we have something to take along. So in this journey, as I mentioned, there was no navigation aid. These are the Thiel Mountains which are located almost midway. So even after skiing for 500 odd kilometers, this is the first time you are assured that you are on the right track by seeing these mountains. And you can correlate with your GPS. We had an additional day of rest there. The winds were very high, so whenever we used to eat, we dug up a small kind of dining hall, which is sheltered from the wind, just for a day. And this is what we do every morning to save ourselves. And this is our sastrugis that I mentioned, and we often struggled going through that with this kind of loads and the wind blowing into your face. So that made us slow many times, but this is what it was. And this kind of encounters also happen at times because of the visibility being poor, you don't know where you're putting your next foot. So this is one of our guys. Fortunately, he didn't break any bones, but there were many such incidents. So we reached the South Pole on 15th of January 2011. 15th of January also happens to be the Army Day. So we were quite happy to make it on that day. So at the South Pole, there's this ugly American station, which you can see from almost 20 kilometers before reaching it. Because in that environment, when you are used to seeing nothing for many days, and suddenly this feature comes in front, it's not a very happy sight. But this was the new station which was commissioned in 2011, and the old station got submerged under ice. They were supposed to remove it, but they didn't do it. So hopefully by now it's completely submerged. And these are the various observatories and scientific stations around the observatories. And since they don't have any fresh green vegetables there, they grow it there. And this was our team and the station. And then we didn't have enough time to ski back, nor was it planned. We chartered this aircraft to fly us back. When we came back again, our flight to Chile was delayed. So we spent some time there. So this is how we came back. So that was our South Pole expedition. Do you have time for two? Okay. So that's it. If you have any question or anything, maybe you can catch me later. Thank you very much.